Om. Asato ma satgamaya. Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya. Mrityurma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. With our prayers to the Divine Mother, to the gods of all religion, to the saints and gurus guiding and protecting us, may we have, with their blessing, a powerful session and pick up some learning in this subconscious mind. Jai. Welcome everyone. Good to see you all back. Today we have a very interesting session with lots of questions, and we're going to take it on. Let's straight jump into it. What is this? What should I do? Check this. Click it. What is it? So we get straight on to the track of the Supreme Feel. Good to see all of you and welcome. So what is the purpose of life? Why are we born if we are already Brahman? And eventual journey is through the life, which is the human life that we are in after maybe 300, 400 million births. But I am already that. Then what's the purpose? Why are we in this? So to understand this, we go on to simple situations into the understanding. We have to grant it with our knowledge and that the pure consciousness is which is I. And I am not this body. I am not this mind. Mind comes in you have consciousness, which is I, which is reflecting, remembering our earlier sessions, onto reflective consciousness, which in turn is influencing the mind, and the mind getting it from the reflective consciousness, getting the life, getting the prana, getting the energy into this called the, just check who is this is. Into another I now. The actual I is I, the Supreme Consciousness, which is one alone. And the Supreme, and the only thing that exists, which is what is the question here. If I am that Brahman, then why is all this? And then through the journey of life, I'm doing sadhana and practices and going in for to become once again enlightened. Why should all that be journey? What is happening in reality is I, the Supreme Brahman, is reflecting onto the Sukshma Sharira, the fine body, which has mind, intellect, buddhi, which has the memory, which has the chit. So, mano, buddhi, chitta, ahankar, the ego. The four, right? So the mind is getting that reflective consciousness, and making the mind in ignorance. This is very important. If I am already enlightened, then I am not ignorant, and I know that I am. But when I'm ignorant, what happens? Gives birth to something called ego. This ego, aham, in turn starts to talk about my anger, my jealousy, my greed, my desires, my body, my needs, my what? Tastes and likes, people, food, and we take up the journey on that way. Now, I cannot dismiss the world as a dream because I am living in that world. How do I take that world as a dismissal? And Krishna is telling in Bhagavad Gita exactly the same thing. Right, we are back into this slide. The moment, remember Hanumanji's answer to Ramachandra when Sri Ram asked him, how do you look at me? He said, Deha Buddhya, when I'm thinking of myself as body, I'm your servant. Meaning what? So even Hanumanji thinks of it mind, and you and I are always in that body. So with this ego coming in, so this supreme consciousness, which is true I, Brahmasmi, Aham Brahmasmi, is through the reflective consciousness, is enlightening the mind in turn getting the life, the first through ignorance, Deha Buddhya becoming I am this body. And through the ignorance, I am creating this anger, jealousy, my desire, my greed, my needs for the body, and I'm limited to now body now. From infinite I become another I. So what is happening is I'm shifting to Robbin Ghosh identity. I was not Robbin Ghosh. I was not a Nama Rupa Bhavara. I was not a name or a form or an action. And this unmanifested reality into a manifested reality is what Krishna is telling is difficult to assimilate. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is telling Arjuna, difficult to understand, assimilate, if I am strongly influenced with my body. And this is our problem. This is the ignorance. And this is called the duality. And this is where the oldest philosophy, you can say is the Sankhya philosophy, Kapila. This Sankhya philosophy talks about that there are different bodies and there are different consciousness. As per Sankhya, each person has a different consciousness. Now, different consciousness, different body. So, in which Sankhya goes ahead and challenges Advaita. If you're saying there is only one, then if one person gets enlightened, then everybody should get enlightened. So the answer to this by Advaita is very simple. Actually, the challenges of the Sankhya can be handled very beautifully. We are not deviating from the topic. We are coming back. There are lots of questions today we shall answer, but you need to get the clarity in this. We are not deviating. The enlightenment, the understanding of becoming a Buddha, it is not to the body. It is to the mind. The mind gets enlightened. Brahmasmi, I become Brahma. Why? Brahma is already Brahma, which is actually I. I travel from my ignorance to wisdom and the knowledge. That's what we are praying, no? asato ma satkamaya, and tamas, ignorance, to tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, take us to. The moment we remove the ignorance of I-ness, I become one with the Brahman. So what becomes Brahman? The mind becomes Brahman. When Paramahansa Yogananda's famous story, Hari Maharaj, Turiya Maharaj asked him, how are you feeling? Paramahansa Ramakrishna said, I am feeling good, I'm good. Throat is paining, can't eat very well. Hari Maharaj said, but you are looking as if you're in bliss. And he says, Sale ne pakad liya, rascal has caught me. But eventually, that was the only part we had covered. If you read Kathamrita, the Gospels of Ramakrishna, he goes ahead and explains to Hari Maharaj. He says, Ore Boka, he's talking about, oh, you champion. It is not the body which gets enlightened. It is the mind which gets enlightened. Because if you look carefully, the consciousness is ever blissful, ever enlightened. The who needs enlightenment? It is the mind. So there is a beautiful statement in Thapliyal Saab's very famous Himalaya. It says that we get enlightenment from the person. So if with the divine grace you and I get enlightened, so Robbin Ghosh, Thapliyal, Rajiv, everybody will be enlightened. Robbin Ghosh from Robbin Ghosh personality. Persona is the mask that we wear as per the etymology of the word. And then called philosophy, which is actually seeing the logic. But the darshana in India, Sanskrit word, it means seeing what is real. And the exact terminology, Luc Ferry, you remember I had spoken about a French, he was the education minister of France. He has written a book, Beyond the Thoughts. And there he is talking about that the true word for darshan is theoria. Theon orao, meaning seeing what is real. So now getting back to it, this is what is called the getting the enlightenment. So for everybody, there is a body. Enlightened person also has a body. And these questions which we are going to deal with it subsequently, it will have this foundation very important, that there is a body, but that we are not deeply rooted to the body as an enlightened person. I'm aware of my body. So let's say, I often say this, I have, let's say, a jacket, designer made jacket. I take care of it. It is made in Mumbai by a designer. I dust it nicely, I hang it properly, I get it dry cleaned. I have another jacket, which also fits me very well and very tightly. And it has got a matching gloves and matching socks. And that is my skin. That's also my jacket. I take care of it too, which we call his body. And all its needs and pains and sufferings and COVID-19 preparation, etc. I'm taking care of it. But I always know, even in the path of the Advaita Vedanta, that I am the consciousness. I may not fully realize it, but I know it. Now my journey from that ignorance knowledge, which is the mix between the two right now where you and I are, to absolute knowledge that who I am is not rooted to the body. Yes, I have a body like an app, like in your mobile, like in your computer that you're utilizing. Then the impersonal consciousness, that I am pure consciousness, does not become difficult to realize. Does not become difficult to realize when I realize that I am not a personalized consciousness. I'm using my reflective consciousness, which is personalized consciousness. Actually, the reflective consciousness and consciousness, there is no difference. But the reflective consciousness has only one. It is influencing the mind and it is got the color of the mind. So you're hearing me, seeing me, I can look at this camera, experiencing the whole world. The world of mind is through that reflective consciousness to the mind, through the senses, coming to the brain and the body, feeding to the brain, going into the mind through that reflective consciousness, which is what David Chalmers in New York Mind Brain Consciousness Unit is doing the research, and so is the School of Divinity in Harvard. So with that, from that impersonal perspective, my wife, my father, my mother, my brothers are all appearances. Just like, so there is problem of COVID-19 and whatever the hassles is. So where is the problem comes in as we are going into it is the ignorance of not knowing who we are. So what is happening in this, going back to this I, so understand it, the very nature of the pure consciousness going into this reflective consciousness, which in turn feeding the mind, which is the Sukshma Sharira, which has got the mind, got the intellect, got the ego and the buddhi. Ego now, through ignorance, says, I am this body, I am this name, and I am this form, and this is my family. And that's how we invite the sufferings into this world. And we affiliate with that bondage of ignorance. It is difficult to understand the consciousness. The journey, what should we do then in this process, what we are doing with the Kriya, which is the Raja Yoga, with the Jnana, which is Advaita, and with our Bhakti, and with our good karma. What we are doing is we are continuously traveling towards that awareness that I will not be influenced with I, the ego, but my consciousness of awareness of what? I see a beautiful mountain, a waterfall. I close my eyes. I am aware of the reflective consciousness which is projecting an image to the mind that through the eye I receive, through the ear I hear, and my mind realizes this is a wonderful fountain with the mountain. I become aware. Now I shift being physically present to that, to the fine tune of the awareness, only reflective consciousness. And from there, catching that thread like a kite, to go to the kite, which is the consciousness, I climb through the reflective consciousness of awareness. I'm just aware. Doesn't sound complicated, neither intellectual words either. Just become aware. I'm aware. Sometimes say you're with somebody, with your baby in your hand, or you're with your husband or wife or parent or friend, or let's say you are just aware of each other. Now lift the awareness from the body awareness to only the awareness. That is Vedantic meditation. And from that awareness thread, only the awareness thread, go to what is called the awareness, the consciousness. So I, the ego, starts up the karma evolution because of the ignorance. How does it start? Desires, anger, jealousy, greed, desire. Ego wants all of them. I want this and I want that. The desire sets up. I have to go out and work and earn money. I have to go and ask my mother for this money. I have to go and ask them, I want to buy this or gift this or eat that and wear that clothes. This is how the whole journey starts off. With this, coming down to Sir Rajiv's questions, a very good question. And the question takes us back to a lot of understanding here. We'll start off with this. Rajiv had asked that question the last time, two questions in the last Sunday session. What I had heard, what I had answered, and when I generally replay the whole thing in the audio after the session is over. And there I heard there are certain parts of the questions which were not uh, clearly defined by my answers. So I'm getting back to this. I'll read out the question first. Why are there so many contradictions in the spiritual world? I would like you to understand, and I will highlight these words. We have the time. The word world, Vishwa. Let's go analyzing. Which is this world? This world is what I perceive. Who perceives it? My senses perceive. My eyes, my ear, my touch, my taste, my smell. The five senses brings the world to me. And there are so many contradictions. Contradictions is what? Who is? It is the intellectual part of the mind, which in turn correlating data acquired earlier, known earlier, learning right now, Shravanam and Mananam, reflections and listening. I get these contradictions to this world. It appears to be the spiritual world. Why? Because from mind, body, ego, consciousness, I'm traveling to, which is through the word spiritual. Spirit is the Supreme Brahman. Supreme Brahman is what we are approaching to. So the word that Rajiv is asking is spiritual world is the right word to take on the journey. But please understand, it is as I perceive. How? With my mind. And that mind only gets liberated. So then, the beautiful thing comes that those who are enlightened, they do not have these questions. Why? Because he already has the answer. And he doesn't have the question. People like you and me, we have the question. We do not have the answer. So we take the journey through the Upanishads, through the Bhagavad Gita, and through Brahma Sutra to understand Shravanam, Mananam, reading and understanding. Let's take on to. This is more of a comment on the difficulty of the spiritual path than a question, right? Very good understanding that it is what Rajiv is doing is right now. Rajiv, are you there? Okay. Possibly Rajiv is not there. It is a comment which he is talking about and not really a question. He's saying there is contradictions in this. Now, this comment it comes in from the mind with which I'm perceiving it. Now, it came to my mind. He's talking about, this is the words that he has sent it to me. It came to my mind while you were talking about this life, the end of life is death. So now, end of life is death is the reference to what is dying? The Sukshma Sharira, as we know through the Advaita, does not die. It's the physical, Sthula Sharira, which dies. Now look carefully. The consciousness, the Sukshma Sharira, has left the body. The body still has all the elements of the Jada, of this wooden table. All the difference between this wooden table and me, of this clock and me, is this also have consciousness, but it doesn't have the Sthula Sharira. It has the Sthula Sharira. It doesn't have the Sukshma Sharira, which you and I have as Jiva, as having the prana. This Sukshma Sharira has those four elements. And then he goes on to say, in Gita chapter 15, verses 1 to 3, reference is made to Ashwatthama as the eternal tree of life. And Yogananda mentions that although most of the human peripherals, senses, etc., are going from inside to outside. Gurudev is explaining this is what we are doing in real life, is inside to outside. And he goes on to say, which is Radhib is explaining, is a real joy to go from outside to inside. It is a comment he is making, which is true. Our world, the true I, is when we go inside and through the ladder of to the human mind, go to the reflective consciousness and go beyond that, which is called man ke par chale jao, go beyond mind. And that is not blankness. Blankness is not going beyond mind. Blankness happens in deep sleep. You go into blankness. Blankness happens also if you're totally unconscious. You later on know you were unconscious, but you are fully conscious and aware in that realization as it is explained in Mandakya Upanishad. And he goes on to say, in another word, Lord Krishna mentions, I was one, wanted to be many, from many, I wanted to be one. So his question, why are we separated if we were only to get back as one? This takes us to the question of this part of the question of Rajiv, is the story of the creation. And why does it happen is the reason for Maya. So creation and Maya is entirely a big topic. We have just discussed it before, but we should do it in our next session again. We touch upon, that's a very big topic. In fact, there's a beautiful incident which happened. Swami Vivekananda was talking to his favorite disciple, and the favorite disciple had done something which Swami Vivekananda was very pleased. So he said, okay, Manmohanath was the name of the disciple. He said, please ask me, what would you like me to give you? He said, Gurudev, make me understand Maya. You know what Vivekananda answered? It's beautifully written down in the Jnana Yoga. He says, ask me for something else. So Manmohanath says, Gurudev, if being with you and I cannot understand Maya, then what good is it for me being with you? Please explain. He insisted. And Swami Vivekananda started talking. Manmohanath, later on, he writes, as he kept hearing Vivekananda on Maya, and he says that the world went round and round and round and round, and he started saying that means all this is not real. That means, and he, in India, we say apni in Bengali, aap in Hindi, in with respect. There is in English, all is you. There is word like thou and things like that in the old English, but right now you. But in Indian, Hindi and Sanskrit and Bengali, it is with respect. But Manmohanath started calling Vivekananda tui and tumi, which is supposed to be disrespectful. And the moment he realized it, he suddenly shook up. And he said, that means this is all not real. And he watched Vivekananda, he was smiling. He didn't say anything. That means, okay, so I've taken you across to that journey. So, going into the answer, what is the purpose of the journey is for us to get back to the story of the creation. Is I had spoken about the Alan Watts story of the book. The name of that book is The Book, a very thin book, quite expensive. He talked about the same thing, but in a story format. The God created, he became bored all by himself for millions of years. He wanted to play. So what did he do? He created a not God to play with not God. So God wanting to play with not God. And God being God, God did his work so well that the not God was just like God. Beautiful story for people like you and me and children, everybody can understand. But because God is God, not God became very good, and not God became actually not God, meaning forgot that he is God. And Alan Watt goes on to say, and who is this not God? He said, Tat Tomasi. He didn't say it in Sanskrit. He said, you are that. So this is what is the story of the creation, in which the consciousness with the Sankhya philosophy, Prakriti and Purusha, Prakriti creates the Maya, gets the power from Brahman, Purusha. But it goes on eventually, and especially of the Kashmiri Shaivism. Kashmiri Shaivism sings, you've heard that song. Na dharma, na kama, na moksha. This is Shankaracharya's song. Na chitya, chidananda rupoham, shivoham, shivoham. Nityaham, buddhaham, chidananda rupoham. And he goes on to say that actually that Shiva, Prakriti, Purusha, which is with the Prakriti, has created this universe. And the Maya in very brief, we'll deal with it in detail, is space, time, and causation. In this today itself, we will cover, if the time permits, little bit about it. Because Maya cannot be dealt with it. It will take several sessions maybe. But it's beautiful to understand that the entire world, that Maya's power comes from Brahman only. The Mother Kali, Prakriti, is Mother Durga, is taking the power from Shiva, as per the Shaivism, Kashmiri Shaivism, going into the world. Let's get on to it. The next question of Rajiv's, I'll just read out the question. Is my second question stemmed from your comments on stillness and cycle of water. Comment which was the Alexander may have drank the same water that you're drinking now, or it may have been the water that you took bath in. This is there in the W volume of the water cycle in World Book of Encyclopedia. Those of you who got it at home or through the internet, go through it. It's a beautiful, very nice. You will never forget the power of the water cycle. That one drop of water from the origin of creation till today has not gone. People tend to say, when the question is asked by the teacher, is the water more? Is it same or is it less? How much of water is there on earth today compared to when the earth started? Is the question which we used to be given. And the water cycle tells us that it is the same water content. And the same content, what Rajiv is referring to that, is that just like the water is bound to be recycled, do we come to peace with the journey of soul in earth to astral world and back to earth, Sankhya, which is the Sankhya theory. Sankhya goes on to say, that means if there are, they say, each soul is different within each body, Sankhya philosophy. Advaita says there is only one consciousness. That one consciousness is everywhere. And that is where the Advaita goes ahead in theory. A clay pot, any part of the clay pot is clay. Any part of the ocean is water. Any part of the gold ornament is gold. It may have different gold ornaments, ring to necklace to bangle to chain to anything. The pot also can be the top, can be the bottom, can be the side, can be inside. Everything has got the same one thing called clay. That this understanding is Advaita. In the Sankhya philosophy, they say that means when a person dies, that consciousness dies. Advaita says, very simply explains it, no, it is the body which dies, the physical body, the jada dies. Jiva is that Maya with consciousness, which creates the jada continues to stay, the dead body stays. It has got all the property of the jada. Only thing it doesn't have the sukshma sharira, which in turn is the reflective consciousness, and that fine mano buddhi chitta ahankar, which goes away. We call I am dead, or this body is dead. And notice, have you realized? Reflect on it. When you go down to pay respect to, let's say, I go down to pay respect to Robbin Ghosh, who's dead. When I go inside Robbin Ghosh's house, I may be finding people there. I don't ask, think. I don't ask, where is Robbin Ghosh? Have you realized that? I always ask, where is the dead body? So we know conventionally that that is not Robbin Ghosh. In the life form, why is it we are not realizing this is not Robbin Ghosh? This is called Maya. And it goes ahead, Sankhya philosophy says, that means if one person gets enlightened, if consciousness is one, Advaita says one, that means one person enlightened, meaning everybody is enlightened. No. Why is it no? Because what gets enlightened? Consciousness is always, Brahman is always enlightened. What gets enlightened? It is the mind gets enlightened. And mind of Robbin Ghosh is separate from everybody else. And that's because of my mano, buddhi, chitta, ahankar. So, Sankhya philosophy, those comments by Advaita, very simply is taken out. And we are talking about, or do we make more effort? This is a continuation with Rajiv's question. Or do we make more effort in stillness and exploring a world for which we have to penetrate beyond the world of the stillness? Let's understand this. I've highlighted this. So those of you ever get time to go through I always give you this PowerPoint for you to reflect on it, reflection, mananam, maybe ask questions subsequently to clarify further doubts. And whatever we are doing, we are referring from the Upanishads and as it is explained by great masters. Now, stillness, effort in stillness. In a way, what Rajiv is talking about, the stillness is that silence. Brahman is silence. We do not make effort to become silent. We do not make effort. What do? We become being. Like when you have a Nama Rupa Babhara, you have the name, form, and action. You don't make an effort to be a man or to be a woman. Why? Because you know it. You are aware of it. I don't have to make effort. Whether I'm eating, I'm sleeping, I'm talking, I'm giving kind of a class sessions or whatever it is. You ask, anybody ask Robbin Ghosh, I raise my hand. I know instantly this is me. And stillness is, which is Brahman, which is absolutely infinite, always present, ever pure, ever calm, ever still. Understanding with all that, exploring a world which we have to penetrate beyond the world of stillness. Of course, stillness makes us more powerful. Rajiv is commenting. The second question is related to the first one. In Contradictions, should we be more dynamic in acceptance changes, or should we become still and spend more time there in the stillness? His question. Everything changes, but our happiness is in the one that he is talking about. So notice it is more of a comment, but his question is, should we spend more time on stillness or should we spend more time on the effort towards the second question is related to the first one. Contradiction should be more dynamic in accepting changes, or we become still and spend more time here. Understand this question from the angle. Changes happen to the mind, to the body, to the attitude. It doesn't happen to the consciousness. It is there is no change. change happens to you and me. As we grow older, there is a change. As we change our place, time, place, position, there are change, which is a Maya. So understanding Rajiv's question, and Rajiv is not here, otherwise we would have had a little more dialogue on this. Basically, our intention is to become in this entire journey one with who we actually are. That is that I-ness, which is Brahman, which is us. With that journey, the changes as we do, possibly what Rajiv is commenting upon, it is not really a question, that do we continue to do our practices through which we change our more conscious of the body and the mind and the name and form, do we get into that silent zone of more of sadhana. So certainly we have to do those changes. And talking about the changes, remember Patanjali Yoga Sutras, Ayama, 5 principles, truth, ahimsa, brahmacharya, ashtya, aparigraha, and niyama, talking about you are aware of those 5 and 5. These 10 principles make the changes in our life. Niyama is to do, ayama is to be aware and do those with those principles. End of niyama is Ishvara Pranidhana, keeping the mind totally. Before that is tapaha, swadhyaya, things like that, and always being calm and pleasant-minded, and starts up with saucha, purity of mind, purity of body. So all these 5 plus 5 tens, the changes possibly is what we need to practice to go towards. Remember the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, which is the Kriya practices, which we do is through the practices, we learn to be still. We learn to be silent. We learn to focus. We learn to follow the breath. And the exercise it through the breath is the thread with which we catch the mind. Notice when we become very excited, angry, jealous, our breath changes. Whereas when we are calm and peaceful and happy, we hardly realize we are breathing. So the ancient masters have given us the way, going through the breath. So let us get on to the next slide. Is questioning the question itself. Which is this question? So, what is the purpose of life if I am that? That was the first question which came to me, and I'm getting back. Questioning the question itself. What does this mean? We will cover this. This is very interesting. You cannot ask that question. Why? Because think, full attention. Okay? It leads to actually questioning the question itself, which as per Swami Vivekananda, he mentions it in Jnana Yoga, it is not correct. That you cannot ask the question a question. Why is why? Or what is, in other words, what is it saying? It's talking about that this question leads us to, in a way, what are we asking for it itself? We are asking for an explanation. We are asking for a cause. Cause and effect. So when I ask a question for the effect, we are asking for a cause. So we see an effect and we want a cause, a causality, right? It's not getting too intellectual, I suppose. But understand this, Vedanta, little bit of focusing, and you all are brilliant, you can easily understand. Supposing I say, grass is wet. You will say, why? This is, you are asking for an effect. Grass is wet, and you are asking for a cause. Why is it wet? I say because it rained, or because the sprinkler I was watering. You got the answer. That would satisfy me. But if I ask a question like, why is there this entire cycle, the whole game of life? Why is it there? You're asking for a cause. It won't work here. Why won't it work? As per Swami Vivekananda's explanations, and he gave this talk both to America as well as to England. And he's saying, in Advaita Vedanta, the entire cycle of life, the entire game of life, it appears because of Maya. What is Maya? Space, time, and causation. So, understanding that, how does this help in our understanding? We have to get to a clarity in understanding and not between intellectual dialogue or a way. So, understanding that explanation is that supposing I form a stage for a theatrical performance, and the theatrical performance is this universe for us to come down and perform. The stage is space, time, and causation. That stage on which the theatrical performance called life is going to take place is the stage. And this stage is provided by Maya, powered by Brahman. Prakriti prepares this stage for us to come to this world, experience the world, purify our karma. Why karma? Again, not very valid, but let's get to it. Simple, what we explained earlier. Consciousness has no karma. It's ever pure, ever perfect. But consciousness through the reflective consciousness, which is like the sun putting the light on the moon. You know, the moonlight today, you and I educated, is not its own light. It's the sun's light. That moonlight lights up the moon for us to see, which reflective consciousness lights up the mind, which in turn has those sukshma sharira, intellect, buddhi, ego, like that, and which in turn sets up the cycle of karma. Now, when we have causation as a part of the stage, you cannot ask for cause for Maya. Why can't we ask? It is like asking for cause for causation. Why is why? Are you with me? For those of you little difficult to understand, let's take it another angle. You ask, what is time? You talk about time. I used to ask this question. That's why I've mentioned it again. You know, when I used to be very young and the monks used to visit our home quite often, we had that kind of an ambience. I used to ask this question. What is time? Where did time come from? What was before time? What is after time? Wrong question, a foolish question. Why? The fact that I accept time as time, I've accepted time. Before time, that means before the time, I'm bringing another word, time. How can there be a before time is time? There is also time. Within the scope of time. With me? Are you with me? Total attention. Within the scope of time, I can ask past and future and present. Within the scope of time. But if I'm going beyond time, there is nothing called time now anymore. Nor after time. There is no time anymore. Within the scope of time, yes, there is future, there is past, and there is present. So it's a wrong question. Similarly, is space. You ask a question, what is beyond universe? Universe is space. What is beyond? You and I think universe meaning planets and stars. Universe is space, the entire space, which includes the planets and the stars and the aurora borealis and everything else, including in that. No? The comets and things like that. So, the sun and the moon and everything is included into that, which is beyond space. beyond space is space. It's the wrong question. So understand it this way, before and after time words, and going into only when you have accepted the concept of space makes sense to ask inside and outside of space. A child may ask, what is outside the universe? You can't answer because outside that means is space again. And this is exactly Vivekananda had answered it. Very simple and beautiful. So the concept of space and outside and inside cannot be. That's a wrong question. So within Maya, you can ask for a cause. But about Maya itself, one cannot ask for a question. It is meaningless question. So going ahead with this, what is the cause of cause? It's like that. When you say, why is Maya? Is asking cause for a cause. There is no answer until one is enlightened. This was my another question came to me, not from Rajiv, from another. What is there no answer until one gets enlightened? Answer is true. And it's exactly how it has been answered by Vivekananda. It is the truth. Truth is, once we are enlightened, we do not ask any more questions because I have all the answers. I know everything. I don't ask a question. Question is to what? To clarify, to know, to find the cause. That's why I ask the question, isn't it? And before that, I have lots of questions, people like you and me, but we don't have the answers. So till we enlighten, we do not have the answers. Himalayan monks have a beautiful answer. Tapliyalji's word. Whenever I think of Himalayan, Uttarakhand, I think about Tapliyal sir. And Himalayan monk says, Maya ko pratishtha mat kariye, Maya ko kaatiye. Don't try to establish Maya. Oh monk, Maharaj, Maya ko pratishtha mat karo, Maya ko kaato. Don't try to establish Maya. Oh monk, try to go beyond Maya. Try to negate Maya. And Maya, it goes beyond the moment you go beyond mind. And that's the journey. That's what you and I have to do. So one wants a reasonable, logical answer, but no reasonable, logical answer because the world from an Advaitic perspective, getting back this answers, Rajiv's questions in its entirety, is in Advaita, there is no world. Where is the world? Where are the waves and the ocean? It's only the water. Where is yours and my world? It's only the consciousness. So remember, Taittiriya Upanishad, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman. Sat, Chit, Ananda. Sat is the existence, ocean of existence, which in turn has become me. You and I say, this clock exists. Advaita Vedanta says, existence has become the clock. You say, I exist. My father doesn't exist. Why? Because his body is not there. We say, no. Advaita Vedanta says, he too exists. His body is not there. He is that same consciousness. I have given him a name, my father's name, Sushil Krishna Ghosh. But the name is still with me, form is not there, but the Chit consciousness, which in turn is my memory, is there. The Advaita perspective that universe was never real. So now, a riddle like a mystery, it never was. It is only an appearance. It appears to be. There are so many problems happen in your dream world. Those dream world in your dream time is real. But you know when you wake up, you say, oh, it was only a dream. It was only an appearance. So in reasonable logical answer, within the dream, that was only a dream. So we go on to, can you see this cyclist being chased by a lion? in a dream. Now you come out of the dream and the child asks, where did the lion come from? Real answer, there is no lion. You've woken up. We say, wake up, wake up. There is no monster. There is no ghost. Come on, wake up. There is no lion. But the child, supposing, says, but I saw a lion. The lion was chasing me. You have to give me an answer. So what will I do? I will say, the lion came from the jungle. But where is the jungle? So the daddy, from where in the jungle? From daddy lion and mommy lion. And he says, where did they come from? Notice how this is how the asking cause for causation. So you actual answer is there is no daddy, there is no lion, there is end to this, is actually it's a dream. So as per Advaita, what we are doing, we're playing the role, acting the role of the specific based on our karma, which is the creation of the world. We should cover more on this, and this is actually answer is a non-answer. So then what is to be done? See this as a path. Accept it. Our journey of the spiritual to becoming one. To becoming one with this consciousness, which actually we are. And why have we deviated from it? Because of ignorance. We have forgotten. We have forgotten. I often talk to our boys and girls. You all know, you must have heard, Times of India has written more than 110 articles on our boys and girls. In the last, from 29th January 2020 was the first article. And this is now September. So approximately 16, 17 months. During this time, 110 articles only on our boys. And you know why? Sharada ma'am and her team's training is creating world toppers. Nobody told you and me in our school days, hey, Robbin Ghosh, you're a good guy. You are intelligent. You work with me. I'll make you a state topper. Did anybody tell you? No, nobody told us. Forget about India topper. Nobody thought about becoming an India topper. Our teachers, our parents, but we were told India topper in cricket, in soccer, in World Beauty Championship, in becoming Mr. India, or chess and roller skating. We were told you could do that. But overall, all round and perfect humanity, they couldn't think of it. Number one in India. Yeah, sure. Forget about the world. We are talking about it. Why? And what do? All I tell them, tell me, you're a girl, right? Let's say I'm talking to the girl. I noticed, by the way, all our world toppers are all girls. And the boys are also doing brilliantly well, but they haven't topped as yet in our school toppers. They are very close to the topper, within very good, with a very slight margin, but they're still number 2. They're not the topper. I asked the girl, you're a girl, right? He said, yes. I said, how do you know that? Come on, sir, I know it. I said, how do you know it? They said, sir, I know. I said, how? And it's a body part, features, parent told me, all that. I said, okay, no doubts? They said, no doubt. I go to another girl. They said, sir, I have no doubt I'm a girl. I go to another boy. I said, do you have any doubt that you're a boy? He said, no. I said, why? He said, sir, I know I'm a boy. I said, how do you know? Go on, sir, I know it. I said, all right. I come back to the girl. I said, are you absolutely sure you're a girl? She said, yes. I said, how? I repeat the question. And they come out with, sir, just because I know it. I said, you monkeys, you all are perfect world toppers. Only thing you have forgotten. Aham Brahmasmi, Tat Tvam Asi, are Mahavakyas. I am Atman Brahman. So dear devotees, dear very dear friend and fellow travelers, you are that. I am that. We have to now travel from the body, name, and form to being that. How do we do the travel? It is not a journey. It is not from a space to another space. It is just becoming what? Aware, knowing I am that. And automatically, as you get into that awareness of practice, you see the mountain, see the waterfall, become aware of the awareness. You remember our Vedantic meditation in the breathing, I said, don't follow the breath. Just be aware of the coolness of the tip of the nose as you breathe in. As you breathe out, just be aware of the warmth of the sensation at the tip of the nose. Awareness of coolness as you breathe in, awareness of warmth. Just spend about 15 counts. How do you keep the count? Remember, we had done this many a time. You were sitting in the Siddhasana, Padmasana, whichever, in your posture. So you are counting. This is pressing the finger is 1. You're sitting like that, right? This is 1. The pressing this finger back to this side is 2. And then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then 15, like that. About 15 counts. Then the next 15 counts in the breathing in process. Breathing all that you would like to achieve. You may include, after the meditation, with the breathing, your material desires. You may. And breathe out all that you do not want. For example, I love to breathe out mithya, alas, lethargy. Mithya is lies, lethargy. I love to breathe out separatedness. You and I are not separate. We are the same consciousness with different body, name, and form. But the consciousness is one, which is I. We are one. That one water, everywhere, different waves, different ocean, different river, different pond, but there is one water. That water cycle is always the same water. It may be salty there. It may be beautiful, cool drink there, but it is the same water. It is with the mixture of other properties that makes it very good to drink, very cool to drink, very salty or very muddy. But be like the light, be like the consciousness. Sunlight falling on the mud, on the dirty something on the road does not get dirty. The sunlight falling on a pitcher of wine does not get drunk. Sunlight falling on holy water, river Ganga, does not become holy. Sunlight is sunlight, ever pure, ever bringing light and heat. Now understand it this way with a little difference. This sunlight is falling on a rock, which has got consciousness, but it doesn't have Sukshma Sharira. The rock gets warm. That sunlight is falling on me, a jiva, or anything which has got Sukshma Sharira, a plant. It has got life. An animal, an insect, all has consciousness. Even a worm, if you touch it, it curls up. It has the consciousness. There are plants, touch me not, and I'll give outright explanation. Touch it, it shows. Now, when the sunlight falls on my body or on that animal, or let's take to understand, it not only gives warmth, body doesn't become only warm, something else happens. What is that? Which is that Sukshma Sharira. What is that? Let's give an example. Rock gets warm. I have a bucket of water. I put the water in the same sunlight. The water is also getting warm, but side by side, yes, there is the reflection of the sun in the water. You will see a little sun there. You will see in a little dewdrop, sparkling light, those rainbows coming out. Those, in addition to the warmth, it also shows a little sun. That is Sukshma Sharira action. That is the consciousness playing through that light of awareness. So be awareness, breathe in good points, breathe out all the bad points, and then become still. Silent, still, no movement. Something itches, something moves, just don't move. And you'll be shocked. I have traveled through just like you, and most of you have done the similar thing. You've been traveling for a long time. Initially, I used to fidget like a monkey, but I kept understanding that I can. Now we can sit for hours without a movement. Body forget about, mind forget about the body. You forget about the mind. But this is not blankness. You're fully aware of the divine light, which is the consciousness all around. With this, if you have any question, you may ask, you may like to write down and send it. Choice is yours. I leave it to any question, anyone. Let's finish today's session with our prayers, salutation. Om Akasha Shanti, Prithvi Shanti, Vayu Shanti, Jalaspataya Shanti, Agnyaya Shanti, Gau Shanti. Om Uttaradesha Shanti, Dakshinaya Shanti, Pushchimaya Shanti, Purvadesha Shanti. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om, may the Divine Mother, saints and gurus of all religion, may Mahavatar Babaji, Kalpa Yogi, Deathless Master, Krishna, Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara, Yogakshema, Vaham Maham, Gurudev Paramahansa Yogananda, Ikteshwar Giri, Lairi Masai, Gurudev Swami Sri Vivekananda, Holy Mother Sharada, Paramahansa Ramakrishna. Bless us all. May protect you and your family members and your near and dear ones with a bubble of absolute protection from all outward suffering, inward suffering. May you all be blessed in this life at all. Jai Guru.